thank you everyone for coming. I and Davina have just been around asking everyone to join us, and I know that everyone says they're incredibly busy, so thank you very much for coming. But actually, special thanks to Stephanie for coming. Everybody, this is Stephanie Vora from Vora Coaching. She's going to be spending about an hour with us talking about fear of missing out. So, which I don't know if any of you get Groupon emails, but yesterday one of the subject headings on a Groupon email was fear of missing out. So clearly the timing is just perfect for today's meeting. Stephanie started life as a management consultant with Ernst & Young, but that's okay, we still welcome you. And then moved into the digital space. In around 2004, she had an epiphany. She suddenly realised that, well, according to the bio anyway, that central to her success, both personally and professionally, was the style of which she was working, and that style very much embraced coaching. So she dug a little bit deeper, decided coaching, training, mentoring was the way forward. Did some studying, and that is kind of why she is with us today. In this new career, she has worked with Discovery. You want to go to Discovery? Disney, Reuters, eBay, and Oxfam, amongst many others. Originally from New York, I need to say that because you might sense a little bit of an accent now living in London. But the real clincher, not just the email from Groupon yesterday, but the real clincher was in Stephanie's bio. She talks about her passions as being food, travel, and experience different cultures abroad. And those are quite familiar genres to us here, so over to you, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you so much for having me. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. I've never used one of these microphones before, so I feel pretty cool to have it in my pocket. So, yeah, thank you, Susie. And just on that last note, I'm so excited to be here. This is literally travel, food, and fine living. That's me in a nutshell. Well, I try to aspire to fine living, but food and travel, just to give you a little background, me and my husband have a bit of a competition. And I'm at 47 countries traveled, but he's at 57. So I have a long way to go. And we travel to most countries together now, so I think I'll always be behind him. But thank you so much for your time this morning. As Susie said, I know everybody's busy, so hopefully this hour will be worthwhile for you. So what I'm going to be doing is take you through a little bit of a talk for about 20 minutes or so, and then open it up for questions, reflections, and really get you thinking about how what I've shared with you can resonate for you so that you can take it back out into the workplace and at home. Okay? So I'm going to make a little bit of an assumption here that most people are familiar with the term selfie. Hands up if you've heard of the term. Pretty much everybody. Okay, and honestly, before you saw the slide, hands up if you've heard of the term FOMO before. Not as many. And so interestingly, both terms became official words in the English dictionary back at the end of 2013, but yet FOMO seems to be less known. And FOMO, fear of missing out, is something that has been affecting me my whole life. And it's not until the past few years where I really have been able to understand it and really understand the impact of it so that I could use it to my advantage and use it as a positive force in my life. And now FOMO is something that's quite universal. So everyone in this room has it in one form or another. And my aim today is to heighten your awareness of how it may show up for you so that you can also use it as a guide and as a positive force. So I'm going to leave you with a few tips and tricks to do that. So to start off, I just want to take you on a little bit of a mental journey with me. So I often take brisk morning walks in Regent's Park all the way up to the top of Primrose Hill. And even though I tend to take the same route each time, because I'm known to be quite directionally challenged, I end up having two very different experiences. So I'd love to invite you on my first experience. Regent's Park, take one. So I enter the southeast corner of the park and I'm briskly walking towards the flowers. And as I'm doing so, I see a smiling mother pushing her pram with her sleeping baby. And I think, gosh, maybe it's time my husband and I have a child. All my friends have kids or they're pregnant. I know it looks like a lot of hard work, but maybe it's time we should do it too. And then I keep walking. And then I see a man playing fetch with his 2 golden retrievers, and I think, well, maybe we should get a dog instead. My sister doesn't have any children. Her and her husband have an English bulldog, and they seem perfectly happy. And then I keep walking. And then I see a small group of men and women exercising with a personal trainer. And I think, well, I have a personal trainer, but I work out on a one-to-one basis, and seeing this group of people, they look like they're having so much fun. Maybe I should look into doing that instead. And then I keep walking. And as I'm walking, I suddenly think, gosh, am I walking fast enough? Maybe I should speed it up because I'm sure I have a bunch of work emails that I'm missing out on at home, probably a bunch of business opportunities that I need to jump on. And so as I reach the top of Primrose Hill, and before I could see the skyline in front of me, I noticed a middle-aged woman drawing in her sketch pad. And I think, maybe I should pick up another hobby. Am I doing enough? God, all my friends and colleagues seem so much busier than me, and here I am, it's just Wednesday, 10 a.m., and I'm just taking a walk in the park. Huh. So take note of how you felt having gone on that walk with me. Little did I know, I was having a FOMO attack. And the dictionary definition of FOMO is the anxiety that a more interesting or exciting event could be happening elsewhere, or that someone is having a more rewarding experience than you. So to put it in a sentence, I could say, even though I was exhausted, my FOMO got the better of me, and I ended up going to all 3 events in one night. And sadly, that was a bit of my reality when I used to live in New York City. Now, sometimes I refer to FOMO as a disease, purely because if you pick apart the word disease, you have dis, which means lack of. And I was certainly suffering from a lack of ease, whether I was aware of it or not. So if we were to go back to my FOMO-induced walk in the park, what was going on? Here I was in one of the most beautiful parks in London, well, I think at least, and I was busy in the narratives in my head, focusing on what I could do to lessen the dis-ease I was feeling. I was comparing to the external world to make my decisions, to trying to figure out maybe what's more rewarding, what am I not doing that I should change? And it's quite funny that the fears of missing out, because I was missing out. I was missing out on my present moment experiences, my personal enjoyment, and everything around me. So I would often come home stuck more into the what-if scenarios in my head, and I would feel often a bit flat, but I wouldn't actually know why. I would just be kind of on automatic pilot. So this is just one way that FOMO can appear. And later on, I'll take you through my second walk in Regent's Park. So what is it then that makes us FOMO at the mouth, as I like to call it? The key word here is fear. And fear is an ingrained and ancient survival response and emotion that sits within all of us. Because if it didn't, we wouldn't be here today. That saber-toothed tiger would have certainly jumped out of the bushes and eaten our ancestors. And there's a specific primitive part of our brain responsible for this masterful strategic response. And it acts like a smoke detector, always on alert and scanning for any potential threats to our survival. Now, if that alarm goes off, it releases a stress response in our body, and it then primes us to either fight or flight to survive. Now, this smoke detector is quite advanced and robust. So not only is it always on alert for checking out for any threats to our core basic survival needs, such as food, water, air. However, it is also looking out for our psychological and social needs. So if those are being threatened or unmet, that smoke detector within us will also go off. So for example, the need to feel included or that you belong, or that there's that connection, or the need to achieve or grow or be recognized, or maybe the need to feel structure or safety, or to have self-expression and control. So just to give it, to bring it to light a bit, let's say that someone was on their beach holiday, sipping Mai Tais, and all of a sudden they happen to go on Facebook. They see a picture of their coworkers all out at a bar, looking like they're having a great time. And all of a sudden, that Mai Tai doesn't taste as good anymore. When you're walking on the beach, that sand feels coarse under your feet instead of light and fluffy as it did an hour ago. What happened? Our smoke detector went off and potentially detected a threat to our need to feel belonged and that we are included. So our smoke detector is doing its job. However, on the surface, it could manifest itself in different behaviors and emotions. So as I said, that Mai Tai didn't taste very good anymore. Maybe that person was just feeling a little bit flat, or maybe they were anxious or jealous. So all of a sudden in that moment, that beach holiday seems to be the last place they want to be. Or another example, let's say a workaholic had to leave work early to attend their child's football game. So while they're physically at the game, they're stuck on their technology doing work the whole time. What happened? Their smoke detector went off. And in this case, maybe the smoke detector looked for a potential threat to the need to achieve, or the need to be recognized. So unconsciously, the narrative could have gone something like, gosh, well, now that I have to leave work early, I can't attend that meeting with my manager and my coworker. And if that happens, my manager is going to give my coworker the next best project. And if he gets that, he's going to get the bonus. He's going to get the promotion. So therefore, what manifests on the surface is the behavior of checking emails, doing work to make sure I'm being recognized and that I'm doing work. Now, all of this, that smoke detector, happens below the surface. And if it manifests itself into a FOMO moment, it can really get us lost into a tornado of emotions and make us blind to what's really going on in front of us. So then, if FOMO has always been around, why all of a sudden has it become so popular today to have made it in the English dictionary? And this is because we live in a world of constant and in-your-face updates every moment of the day. We are bombarded by social media. We are paralyzed by the amount of choice we have. It actually robs us of our satisfaction. It's no wonder that keeping up with the Joneses mentality, or the grass is always greener tendencies pop up from time to time. It's actually said that 56% of social network users suffer from FOMO. And another study states that every 8 minutes, someone on Twitter gets FOMO, although I actually think it might be a little bit higher than that. And the National Institute of Mental Health states that over 40 million Americans suffer from anxiety-related disorders. And I'm personally curious to know how many of those are FOMO-related. So now I just want to make a note that while social media is often heightened by FOMO, that's only one way FOMO can materialize. FOMO is sneaky, it is stealthy, and it's a shapeshifter. It can come in many forms. So there's those people out there that say yes to everyone, no matter what the cost. Or there's the type who RSVP maybe, just in case there's something better that comes along. Or there's the people that are indecisive about choices they need to make, big or small, professional or personal. Think about me in Regent's Park. Or there's the ones that are ruminating over and over again and overanalyzing the choices they've already made. Or perhaps there's those that don't feel they're doing enough and are shooting all over themselves. Again, think of me in Regent's Park. Or there's the type that have bought, done, or said things just to feel part of the group. Or maybe they're living beyond their means just to stay one step ahead or keeping up with the Joneses. Then there's those who say they can't leave work at a decent hour, or they can't take that holiday because they think they're too busy. Or is it their need to make sure they go to all the meetings and have their hands in all the pies to make sure they have their say or be recognized? Or maybe They're not delegating enough to their team for fear of not knowing what's going on. Then there's the classic insatiable need to check our email. There is a study now that shows that 1/3 of people check their email from bed by 7:30 a.m. Or simply when you go to restaurants and you see friends, colleagues, family on their technology instead of seeing what's directly right in front of them. You can have a FOMO attack from seeing a friend get a new job, get a promotion, buy a new house, have a baby, get married, travel to cool places, tell you they're sending their kids to the so-called best school, or just simply telling you they're going to a cool networking event and you're not. Start to pay attention to what FOMO traps you may be falling into. Maybe I've said one already that resonates. The list is endless. So what then is the ultimate impacts of FOMO? And I want to first state that not all FOMO is bad, and in a lot of cases it can just be harmless, pop up from time to time, and sometimes be a great motivator for us. However, an unconscious stream of FOMO attacks that really go unnoticed to us can lead to some unfavorable outcomes. So I actually like to think that if FOMO were a prescription drug and it came with one of those warning labels on the side, it would say something like, caution, overindulgence of FOMO can cause inauthentic behavior, loss of present moment experiences, endless self-comparisons, envy, jealousy, insecurity, indecision, self-doubt, stress, exhaustion, inefficiencies, lack of productivity, feeling behind in life, lack of boundaries, exhaustion, and constant cravings for more. Check with your doctor to see if FOMO's right for you. And when I look back, I see how FOMO had an impact on my career as I ultimately went against my desire to study human behavior in college. And I went with the safer and wiser and everybody else was doing it choice, and that's where the money was, and studied business instead. Hence why I went to Ernst & Young. Not for long. And it took me almost 10 years to wake up and follow my passion. FOMO can be a real blocker to our authentic selves, by which I mean really following our own internal desires and values. And if that happens, over time, life can seem a little bit more dull. It's almost like watching a black and white TV instead of having a 3D experience. So after peeling back the layers of what FOMO really was and how it impacted me, I've actually found a way to treat my symptoms and keep them in check and use it for the good. So remember, we cannot get rid of FOMO. It's our natural human response. It's our smoke detector. So it's more about how we consciously manage it, to use it, to make better decisions, and to use it to be happier in life. So to start off, I've changed the meaning of FOMO from the fear of missing out to focus on mastering oneself. And to me, that's a much more empowering acronym. And so when I see a FOMO attack in the midst, I now use it as a motivational trigger, as a call that I need to do something, and that it's going to be a way for me to grow forward. And to do that, I've came up with a 3-step process to help take me through that journey. And I call it the 3 Ps, and it stands for pause, process, and proceed. So let's go through them. Pause. This is exactly what it says on the tin. This is just about stopping so that you can give yourself time to reflect. Stopping when you notice you've had a FOMO moment. Now, when you first start out, you may notice FOMO after the fact, which is perfectly okay. But with practice, you'll build that muscle of noticing when FOMO is happening live in the moment. Now, the key to this step is to be non-judgmental. Do not judge yourself, because again, this is normal. Second step is to process, and this is all about getting under the hood of that car. This is about doing some analysis, some reflection, some research on ourselves. We can spend so much time on TripAdvisor planning for a trip or finding that perfect holiday or the perfect dress or the perfect shoes, but we never spend that much time up here figuring out what's going on. So Ask yourself, how did my smoke detector go off? What patterns are emerging? Is something coming up around feeling included, or around my need to achieve, or do I need to express myself? Ask yourself how you're feeling. Do I feel anxious, nervous, stressed, jealous, exhausted? Really start to bring presence to that fear. And so then the third step, once you've paused and you're now mindfully and consciously aware of what's going on, you can now proceed with mastery. You can proceed with your preferred choice of action, behavior, or whatever you want to do. You can, of course, now choose to feel or do what you were doing before, but if it was not so nice of an emotion, it might not be the best thing for you. But now that you're aware, you can proceed differently. So the 3 Ps can really help that person sipping Mai Tais enjoy their Mai Tai and be happy for their colleagues all out at a bar. The 3 Ps can help that workaholic be 100% present for their child at that football game instead of being stuck on their technology, fearful that they're going to miss out on something. And I use the 3 Ps all the time. I can often laugh at it now. It's a joke with my husband and I when I see it. But what it does is it lessens that emotional blow. And so just to give an example, I used it not too long ago when I was looking at taking a new class for a certification in my field. And I was realizing that it wasn't an easy process. I wasn't having fun with it. There's just something sticky about it. And I was 2 seconds away from transferring $3,000 into the bank account of the course provider when I decided to try out the 3 Ps. Probably quite late, but I did it. And so I paused, and from that standpoint, I realized that FOMO had come to dinner. And so then I processed. And to my surprise, I realized 2 things were going on. My need to achieve and my need to be a part of the group. So a lot of my colleagues in my field had this certification. And so I was realizing that script in my head of, well, you need to get this certification because you won't be as good as if you don't. And if you don't, you won't be a part of that group. So that's what was really driving me. So what did I do? I proceeded differently because I was aware and I took the time to figure that out. I didn't transfer that money. Yeah, the certification's great, maybe I'll take it one day. I found another course that resonated much more with my values and motivated me, and I could not be happier. So just taking those 2 minutes out saved me from something that I didn't necessarily want to do. So with that, I'd love to invite you back to Regent's Park. So Regent's Park, take 2. This is a FOMO-free walk. So I enter the southeast corner of the park and I'm briskly walking towards the flowers. And I can feel the solid ground under my feet as I walk. And I feel the sun pulsing a warm, tingling glow on my cheek. And I see the leaves blowing gently, as almost as if they were taking a Tai Chi class. And as I smell the crisp air, and my arms are swiftly moving back and forth, I notice a smiling mother pushing her pram with a sleeping baby. And I think, how precious. I see a man playing fetch with his 2 golden retrievers, and I smile outwardly thinking how easy it is to make a dog happy just by chasing after a ball. I see a small group of men and women exercising with their personal trainer, and I think, wow, those exercises look hard, you can do it. I feel my heart beating faster and faster as the incline gets steeper and steeper up to the top of Primrose Hill. I reach the top and I catch my breath and I feel a surge of energy rush through my body, and I smile with the accomplishment of having reached the top. And as I see the stunning skyline in front of me, cranes and all, I notice a middle-aged woman drawing in her sketch pad. And I think, wow, I love the rendition of what she sees in front of her. Those are beautiful pictures. So what was different this time? FOMO-free. I was experiencing all of my senses. I was open, I was curious, I was interested, I was grateful. It was a great place to be. Same exact walk as before, 2 very different experiences. Which would you prefer? So I would like to invite everybody today to FOMO. And I mean focus on mastering oneself. I invite you to try out the 3 Ps. Pause and just listen inward. Process and bring a presence to that fear. Notice those comparisons. Notice the need to check, the need to do, the need to know, the need to be. And from that standpoint, you can proceed. Proceed with mastery. Because when you're in the driver's seat, you get to choose which road to go down. And I tend to think the key to FOMO all stems from being aware. So the more you can see, the more you can soar. Thank you.